The cold arrives without warning. There is no spectacular sunrise, no storm is brewing, just a slow condensation of the air until breathing itself becomes visible proof of life. At minus 50 degrees Celsius, the Yukon doesn't simply feel frozen. It becomes something else entirely, a place where warmth is a memory and survival is an argument against physics. Ice forms in layers on the fur, and each exhalation crystallizes before it can disperse. The wind moves like a blade across the tundra, stripping heat from everything exposed. The snow doesn't fall gently here, it creeps. It hisses across the ground in silvery sheets, filling footprints almost as soon as they're made. Metal breaks at this temperature. Steel becomes brittle, giving way with a sharp crack under tension. Leather hardens, wood fractures. Human skin can freeze in seconds, cells rupturing as the water inside freezes. In this cold, mistakes aren't corrected, they're punished. The earth lies silent beneath a pale sky. It is not the peaceful silence of a sleeping forest, but the heavy, pressurized stillness of a world in suspense. Even sound travels differently. It carries farther, sharper, as if the air itself had hardened. A distant branch snapping echoes like a gunshot. The crunch of snow under weight reverberates in the void. Across the tundra, frost accumulates on the thick, protective hairs of a dense winter coat. Each strand traps air, a fragile barrier against a force determined to steal every last degree of warmth. Muscles move slowly to conserve energy. Blood is diverted to vital organs. Every heartbeat is a negotiation. The snow cracks under pressure. A hoof presses down and the crust fractures with a brittle crack. Beneath it lies a deep, relentless dust. Every step demands effort. Every movement costs calories that cannot be easily replenished. At minus 50 degrees Celsius, energy is life. If you waste it, the cold takes what hunger cannot. The wind picks up again, sweeping across open terrain with nothing to stop it. It cuts through valleys and frozen rivers, lifting fine crystals into the air until the horizon blurs into a white abstraction. The landscape stretches endlessly, offering no shelter, no limits, only distance. The psychological immensity weighs as heavily as the cold itself. There is nowhere to hide, and yet something is moving. A shadow is drawn through the blowing snow. It falls low, close to the ground, deliberate. Eyes squint at the sting of ice particles. Frost frames eyelashes. Vapor rises from flared nostrils and vanishes instantly, stolen by the air. A wolf stands tall in the blizzard, its thick fur edged with white, muscles taut beneath a coat designed by evolution for this precise brutality. It doesn't fight the cold, it endures it. Behind those amber eyes lies calculation. Hunger sharpens the senses. The temperature can kill the weak, but it also weakens the prey. The cold reduces the numbers of herds, slows the wounded, and isolates the young. In this frozen arithmetic, the executioner becomes an ally. Another figure materializes in the distance, then another. A line forms against the storm, legs carefully placed in the tracks of the one in front to conserve energy. No wasted movement, no wasted heat. The tundra is not empty, it is waiting. At minus 50 degrees Celsius, survival isn't guaranteed by strength alone. It belongs to those who can read the wind, pace their energy, and move in silence without breaking it. In this vast and unforgiving expanse, the cold decides who falters and who hunts. Temperature is not the bottom line. It is judge, jury, and executioner. And this is your domain. Welcome to the Yukon. The storm subsides, but the cold remains. Across the windswept tundra, a line of shadows moves with silent precision. One after another, their paws treading the exact tracks they left before them, the pack advances in single file. It's not ceremony, it's efficiency. By following the same tracks, they conserve energy, making their way through the hardened snow without each wolf having to forge its own path. Drifting dust drifts slowly toward those footprints as they pass, erasing all evidence of their existence. In the Yukon, even memory is fleeting. Frost gathers on their whiskers and eyebrows, outlining each face with a white filigree. Their fur is dense, with an insulating undercoat beneath long protective hairs that repel wind and ice. Heat radiates in faint halos around their bodies, visible only in the vaporous air that rises from their snouts and dissipates into the air. A wolf stops, the ears move. The steam rises steadily as the nostrils dilate, savoring currents invisible to the eye. In a world enclosed beneath the snow, the aroma travels differently, hidden, carried by icy surfaces, preserved in the cold like a message sealed in glass. The pack waits. Hierarchy governs every movement. At the front, the breeding pair sets the direction and pace. They are not kings and queens in a romanticized hierarchy, but seasoned survivors whose decisions determine the fate of the group. Behind them follow the foals and their subordinates, each interpreting subtle cues in posture and tail position. A lowered head, a rigid shoulder, a gaze that redirects movement without a sound. Winter compresses your world into a simple equation. Calories gained versus calories spent. An adult wolf can need up to 10,000 calories a day to maintain its body weight in these extreme temperatures. That's the energy contained in several kilograms of meat, and meat is scarce. For days, sometimes weeks, the pack may find nothing. They move across frozen riverbeds, through boreal forests where fir branches hang heavy with frost. Slow shots reveal ribs barely visible beneath thick fur. The cold preserves their bodies, but it doesn't nourish them. The memory of failure lingers in their journey. Not all chases end in bloodshed. Once, a herd scattered too quickly. A caribou stumbled but regained its footing. The herd had gone too far ahead, burning valuable energy before the alpha female broke off the chase. To continue would have meant collapse. In this land, recklessness is suicide. They are endurance hunters, built not for explosive speed, but for relentless pursuit. Long legs, narrow chests, enormous lungs. Their strategy is patience. They pick off the weak. They test the pack. They press in from multiple angles. They wait for exhaustion to achieve what teeth alone cannot. Another wolf stops, with its head down. The ears twitch. The wind has changed. The pack spreads out slightly, a subtle expansion of the formation. No barking, no dramatic signals, just posture and instinct. The snow crunches softly under their padded paws, an almost synchronized rhythm. Their tails hang straight behind them, preserving their balance and warmth. Hunger sharpens them. It doesn't make them reckless, it makes them precise. In this frozen realm, the cold sculpted and strengthened them. The deep snow slows the heaviest prey. The icy crust cuts tender hooves. The weakest members of the herd struggle to keep up as the snow swallows every step. Wolves know this terrain perfectly. They interpret the slope and wind direction, the thickness of the ice, and the shadow lines. They know where caribou cross the rivers, where moose push their way through the willow thickets, where musk oxen form defensive circles that are difficult to penetrate. Another pause. This time the head is raised higher. The steam shoots out of the cannon in slow, deliberate breaths. In the distance, almost invisible against the pale horizon, something stirs beneath the snowy landscape. A slight disturbance. A movement not caused by the wind. The package becomes rigid and the energy condenses like a coiled spring. Their prey is out there, somewhere under the snow. The signal passes through the packet without making noise. The wolves begin to disperse. What was once a single file through the drifting snow now widens into a crescent. Each individual subtly adjusts their line, increasing the distance between bodies while maintaining eye contact. There is no sudden charge, no reckless dash. The hunt begins with pressure, not speed. Farther on, the caribou herd grazes through the snow, scraping with their hooves to uncover buried lichen. Their heads rise almost simultaneously. Their ears twitch. One animal snorts loudly, steam billowing from its flared nostrils. The wolves are in no hurry. They advance at a steady trot, forcing the herd to move. The snow explodes beneath their hooves as the caribou surge forward in a wave of muscle and antlers. The calves struggle to match the longer strides of the adults. The herd bunches together, then stretches out, and finally breaks up slightly as individuals seek more open ground. This is the moment the wolves have been waiting for. Their strength lies in their resilience. Long legs absorb the impact. Large lungs absorb the frigid air. Their strategy isn't to dominate the strongest animal in the herd, but to create imbalance. A stumble, a hesitation, a widening gap. The pack adjusts its formation mid-stride. One wolf turns left, another right, narrowing escape routes without fully committing. Energy must be spent carefully. Every calorie burned in a failed chase is a debt to survival. The snow deepens along a gentle slope. A young caribou wobbles, making its way through the crust into the softer powder below. It regains its balance, but the delay is measured in heartbeats, and heartbeats matter. The wolves accelerate, not explosively, but persistently. Their pace increases just enough to raise the pressure. The herd disperses, instinct driving them to leave the threat behind. The snow rises into the air, glistening briefly before settling back into a white silence. Close up, the flank of a panting caribou. Frost clings to its eyelashes. Muscles tremble beneath a thick winter coat. Each breath scrapes the cold, lungs fighting the burning air with every inhalation. Behind him, a wolf's gait remains steady. Mouth slightly open, tongue visible, conserving oxygen. They are built for this. They move efficiently over long distances. The chase becomes a matter of arithmetic. How long can the prey withstand the panic? How long can the predator maintain its patience? The herd crests a low rise and its pace changes. The wind has eroded the terrain. The snow is firmer here. The caribou regain their rhythm. The limping individual that once seemed vulnerable disappears again into the moving mass. The wolves move more slowly. One by one, their pace slows to a controlled trot. They raise their heads, ears forward. They watch as the herd moves farther and farther away, increasing the distance with each stride. Close up, the flank of a panting caribou. Frost clings to its eyelashes. Muscles tremble beneath a thick winter coat. Each breath scrapes the cold, lungs fighting the burning air with every inhalation. Behind him, a wolf's gait remains steady. Mouth slightly open, tongue visible, conserving oxygen. They are built for this. They move efficiently over long distances. The chase becomes a matter of arithmetic. How long can the prey withstand the panic? How long can the predator maintain its patience? The herd crests a low rise and its pace changes. The wind has eroded the terrain. The snow is firmer here. The caribou regain their rhythm. The limping individual that once seemed vulnerable disappears again into the moving mass. The wolves move more slowly. One by one, their pace slows to a controlled trot. They raise their heads, ears forward. They watch as the herd moves farther and farther away, increasing the distance with each stride. Finally, the wolves return to the white expanse and their silhouettes dissolve into the distance. The circle remains for a moment longer before dispersing. The adults step aside so the calves can breathe more freely. Heads lower again. The snow is scraped. Feeding resumes. In a land ruled by persecution, the muskox survives thanks to rejection. It doesn't run away from the ice age. It stays in it. Where the wolf moves with authority, another predator moves with discretion. A small figure glides through the snowdrifts, almost invisible against the white expanse. The Arctic fox doesn't announce itself with the crunch of snow or the movement of its muscles. It's a flash, a hint of movement, a shadow cast against the white. Its winter coat is a marvel of adaptation, so dense that even the pads of its paws are insulated, allowing it to cross ice that would numb flesh in seconds. The transformation is seasonal. In summer, brown and grey. In winter, pure white. Not just for beauty, but to blend in. The fox lowers its head, ears perked up and forward. Beneath the snow lies a hidden world of tunnels dug by lemmings and voles. The tundra may appear frozen and lifeless, but beneath its surface, small mammals move in isolated corridors among grass stems and root systems. The fox listens. His hearing is sharp enough to detect the slightest scratch under nearly a meter of snow. A tilt of the head, a micro-adjustment, tense muscles. Then, without hesitation, he jumps. The small body arches upward before plunging headfirst into the snowdrift. The snow explodes in a burst of dust. For an instant, only a white tail is visible, twitching slightly as the fox disappears. Seconds later, it emerges, jaws clamped around a struggling lemming. This is opportunism perfected. Unlike wolves, which rely on coordinated hunting and large prey, the Arctic fox survives thanks to its versatility. Rodents, bird eggs in summer, carrion in winter, and even berries when the tundra softens. Its metabolism is calibrated for scarcity. Fat reserves accumulate rapidly when food is plentiful and can sustain the fox through periods of scarcity. Its insulating efficiency is extraordinary, almost twice that of many similarly sized mammals. Its compact body reduces the surface area exposed to the cold. A thick tail wraps around its face while it rests, trapping heat like a built-in scarf. But even the fox knows the value of association, however indirect it may be. In the distance, a pack of wolves feeds on a hard-won carcass. The fox waits on the periphery, cautious but patient. It understands the hierarchy without belonging to it. When the wolves move away, even briefly, the fox leaps forward, tearing at the frozen remains with sharp, efficient bites. He doesn't challenge the wolves. He benefits from them. Steam escapes from its snout as it stops, constantly scanning. Every movement is swift and efficient. Energy is the currency here, and the fox spends it wisely. The wind sweeps across the open ground once more, erasing the tiny footprints almost instantly. The fox continues on its way, a living echo of the landscape, small, resilient, almost invisible. In such a vast and unforgiving territory, no predator survives completely alone. In Yukon, survival is rarely solitary. The wind carries a sound that does not belong to the storm. A single muffled croak breaks the icy valley, then another. The cries echo against the distant ridges, sharp and measured, piercing the muffled hiss of the moving air. High above the tundra, black shapes spin in circles. Crows don't migrate far from the harsh Yukon winters. They stay when others leave, riding thermals even in sub-zero temperatures. Their wings beat firmly against the wind, their primary feathers extending like fingers, adjusting with subtle precision. From above, they observe everything. Below, a pack of wolves moves across the snowy field. The crows continue. It's no coincidence. It's a strategy honed over generations. Crows have learned that wolves are not only predators, but also providers. Where wolves hunt, opportunity arises. A successful kill means access to the protein contained in frozen meat too tough for smaller scavengers, but easily discovered by their powerful beaks. The croaking grows louder as the birds descend, landing a safe distance from the feeding wolves. They tilt their heads, one bright eye watching the scene unfold. They wait for the tension to subside. A wolf raises its head, its muzzle stained with darkness against its white fur. The crows hop back, wings partially outstretched, careful not to cross the line. Here too, they understand the hierarchy. Patience is rewarded. When the wolves step aside, even briefly, the crows rush forward, black feathers against the reddish snow. Sharp beaks strike the frozen tissue, tearing at tendons hardened by the cold. The sound is unmistakable. Crackle, rip, scrape, layered over the steady gust of wind. Their intelligence is not abstract. It manifests itself in movement. Crows store food, hiding pieces under the snow or in tree hollows to retrieve later. They remember locations for weeks, sometimes months. They recognize wolves and human faces. They solve problems, cooperate, even play, gliding down snowy slopes with no immediate benefit beyond practice and perhaps pleasure. Above the corpse, a crow perches on a nearby fir branch, emitting a series of calls. These are not random noises, they are signals. Crows communicate their food discoveries to others, attracting more birds to the site. More wings appear on the horizon, drawn by the sound. Wolves tolerate them because crows serve a purpose. They clean up what's left. They dismember the carcasses, thus reducing the smell that could attract other predators. In spring, their remains nourish insects and microbes in the soil when the thaw arrives. Nothing goes to waste here. The wind picks up, lifting loose feathers. A crow braces for a gust, digging its talons into its frosty skin. Its feathers ruffle but settle quickly, designed for insulation without sacrificing flight. As the wolves depart, leaving scattered remains, the ravens take control of the place. Their calls echo once more throughout the valley, mingling with the dull roar of the wind. Black against white, sound against silence. In the frozen kingdom of the Yukon, survival depends not only on hunting, but also on what follows. And after every predator come the crows, vigilant, calculating, indispensable. The storm feeds many mouths. The river lies silent. Months ago, this channel teemed with life. Salmon swam upstream in silvery waves, churning the water beneath the weight of their muscles and instincts. Bears waded shoulder-deep in the current, claws flashing, jaws snapping around shimmering bodies. Now the river is frozen. Snow blankets the banks with soft contours. The stream still flows beneath, but it is silent, hidden, reduced to a distant murmur under an icy canopy. No imposing figure patrols the shore. No claw marks dig into the banks. The Yukon's most powerful predator has vanished, or at least that's what it seems. High above the river valley, on a hillside sculpted by wind and time, a mound of snow lies undisturbed. Beneath it lies a chamber dug months ago, hewn with earth and roots before winter sealed the ground. Inside, insulated by earth and snow, a grizzly bear waits. Its heart beats slowly now, reduced to a fraction of its summer rhythm. Body temperature drops, though not to freezing. Breathing becomes shallow and measured. This is not true hibernation in the strict biological sense. Bears do not enter the deep torpor of smaller mammals, but rather a state of profound metabolic suppression. Energy expenditure decreases dramatically. Muscles resist atrophy. Bones retain their density. She hasn't eaten in weeks. She won't eat for months. Every calorie that sustains her was stored in the fall. Fat accumulated beneath her thick skin during a season of hardship, salmon migrations, plots of berries, ground squirrels dug into their burrows. Hyperphagia, the biological drive to consume almost constantly, allowed her to double her daily caloric intake before winter arrived. That fat now fuels her survival. In the dimly lit chamber, two small figures move beside her. Puppies, born in the dead of winter as the outside world froze over. They came into the world blind and almost hairless, weighing less than a kilogram. They feed on rich, fatty milk, drawing on reserves accumulated long before their existence. The mother doesn't fully awaken. She moves only slightly, conserving heat and protecting them from the cold that would kill them instantly outside this isolated den. Above, the wind whips up the mountainside. The snow thickens over the entrance, sealing it tighter. The Yukon may roar with fury at -50 degrees Celsius, but beneath the surface, life endures calmly. The absence of the brown bear transforms the winter dynamics. Wolves roam the river corridors unopposed. The carcasses remain theirs alone. Moose browse the willows unchallenged on the frozen banks. The full force of autumn is reduced to a silent pulse beneath the snow. But this is not a retreat, it's a strategy. When the spring days lengthen and the temperatures soften, the den will open. The mother will emerge thinner, her ribs faint beneath her fur but still powerful. The cubs will come out for the first time, blinking at a transformed world. The salmon will return. The rivers will overflow. The earth will thaw. Winter is not an end here, it is a pause. Beneath snow-covered dens and frozen rivers, the cycle waits, coiled and patient, for the heat to loosen its grip. On the surface, the river appears dead. Its surface is covered in a dull white, like a layer of snow on ice so thick it seems permanent. The wind passes over it without resistance. Wolves cross it. Caribou migrate across it. To the untrained eye, it is nothing more than frozen earth. But beneath the ice, the river still breathes. An underwater camera glides into the dark waters, revealing a windless world. Light filters dimly through the icy ceiling, casting a faint blue glow that shimmers with the shifting current. The water moves more slowly now, confined by the ice, but it still moves. The fish float in the current, their movements slow and controlled. Arctic grayling, whitefish, burbot, each conserving its energy with the same care as a wolf. Their metabolism slows with the temperature. Every fin stroke is calculated. Rapid bursts of speed are rare. Survival depends on efficiency. Winter here presents a hidden challenge: oxygen. When rivers freeze, the exchange between air and water is drastically reduced. The snow accumulated on the ice further blocks sunlight, limiting photosynthesis in aquatic plants. Oxygen levels can decrease over time, creating areas of stress below the surface. In shallow, stagnant water, fish can die if the oxygen level drops too low. But in the Yukon's larger river systems, the current is salvation. The flowing water carries dissolved oxygen from upstream reaches, where turbulence prevents complete freezing. Deep pools act as refuges, slow-moving sanctuaries where fish gather in scattered groups, suspended in near absolute stillness. A burbot glides past the camera, like an eel, perfectly adapted to the cold. Unlike many fish, it thrives in icy waters, even spawning under the ice when predators on the surface are scarce. Its movements are slow, ancient. Near the riverbank, a dark shape cuts through the water with fluid confidence. An otter, It twists and turns with agility, trapping air bubbles in its fur that shimmer along its body like liquid silver. While wolves patrol the frozen surface, the otter moves between worlds. It hunts fish beneath the ice and then emerges through vents to glide across the snow in playful arcs. On the bank, it plunges gently down, belly to the snow, creating a temporary trail before disappearing into a hidden entrance. Here, play and practicality merge. Gliding saves energy, movement becomes efficient. The river is more than water, it is continuity. The nutrients carried downstream sustain the aquatic insects that will emerge in spring. The fish that survive the winter become prey for bears, eagles, and wolves when the ice retreats. Even in its most tranquil state, the river is the backbone of the ecosystem. Above, the snow continues to fall. The tundra remains shrouded in silence. But beneath the ice, flippers gently pulse against the current. Gills absorb precious oxygen, and slender bodies navigate dark corridors carved by water older than winter itself. The Yukon may appear completely frozen. However, beneath its hardened surface, life flows, hidden, persistent, waiting for the thaw. The first crack is almost imperceptible. A fine crack runs across the river's icy skin, an irregular line etched by the rising temperature and the relentless undercurrent. Then another and another. What seemed immovable begins to tremble. Spring doesn't arrive in the Yukon gently. It arrives with liberation. The snow softens in the midday light. Its surface crumbles inward, its crystalline edges yielding to the accumulating droplets that tumble down. Icicles drip steadily from the fir branches. The sound is subtle at first, a soft ticking, but it multiplies through the valleys until the landscape vibrates with the meltwater. The ice creaks as it shifts. The sheets fracture and scrape against each other with deep rumbles that echo downstream. The river awakens in stages, the dark waters widening between the floating slabs, carrying the debris of winter. Along the south-facing slopes, the first green shoots push through the thawed soil. Tiny willow and willow herb sprouts emerge from ground that was iron-hard just weeks ago. The transformation is rapid, almost urgent. At this latitude, the growing season is short. The plants waste no time. The tundra is on the move. Female caribou, heavy with calves, seek out open calving grounds where visibility stretches for miles. Their bodies, thinned by the winter, feed on the new vegetation to maintain milk production. Within days of birth, the calves struggle to their feet, their legs trembling but driven by instinct. They must be walking within hours. Predators are already watching. A newborn takes its first steps, shivering in the wind. Its mother circles nearby, nostrils flared at every scent. Around her, dozens of other calves come to life, swaying. The air now carries a different energy, less quiet, more charged. For wolves, spring is an opportunity heightened by hunger. After months of calculated pursuit and occasional successes, the landscape offers vulnerable prey in abundance. The herds intensify their patrols along the migration corridors. Their winter emaciation begins to lessen as prey becomes more plentiful. However, the hunt remains disciplined. The adult caribou are still formidable. Energy must be conserved. Predator pressure intensifies. Golden eagles circle overhead, searching for young that have strayed too far from their mothers. Brown bears emerge from their dens, lean and powerful, their snouts close to the ground, scavenging for carrion or newborn ungulates. The balance shifts rapidly. What winter concealed, spring reveals. The snow recedes in jagged patches, revealing a mosaic of mud, grass, and lingering white. Moose venture into burgeoning wetlands to feed on aquatic plants newly accessible beneath the melting ice. Waterfowl return in flocks, their calls mingling with the sound of rushing rivers. The Yukon transforms from monochromatic austerity to layered complexity. With the heat comes abundance, but also competition. Every mouth that survived the winter now seeks to regain strength. The ecosystem accelerates, compressed by the latitude in a frenzy of growth and predation. The ice breaks, the rivers swell, greenery spreads across the once frozen slopes. Winter's long pause is over, and with the thaw, the struggle begins anew. The riverbank is silent, melting snow murmurs beneath the ever-thinning ice. A hollow in the hillside darkens, then it moves. From the mouth of a den, an enormous head emerges into the daylight. Frost clings to its fur, the color of ancient earth. Its shoulders follow, immense, muscular and resolute. After 5 months beneath the snow and earth, the brown bear returns to the open world. This is the return of the grizzly bear, not resurrected or reborn, but reactivated. Winter didn't erase it, it only stopped it. Steam rises from its fur as the cool air touches its warm muscles. The bear blinks in the sunlight like an ancient machine running. Beneath that thick skin, astonishing biology has been at work. Its heart rate has slowed, its metabolism has been suppressed, its muscles have been preserved despite near total inactivity, its bones have remained strong. It doesn't eat, it doesn't drink, it doesn't urinate, it doesn't defecate, its fat reserves have carried on. Below, the wolves move along the lower ridges, searching for scent trails. They look up. The sheep are already watching. Here, predator detection is immediate. The terrain offers wide lines of sight. The silhouette of a wolf against the snow is visible from astonishing distances. And once spotted, the response is swift, a scent. Not a frantic dash, but a controlled retreat to angles unreachable by wolves. But safety doesn't eliminate rivalry. On a wide stone platform, 2 rams face off. Their horns curve in thick spirals, furrowed by years of growth. This isn't decoration, it's history. Each ring marks a season survived. They separate, they lower their heads. Impact. The clash of horn against horn echoes down the mountain, a percussion against the stone. They charge again the collision. The sound is ancient physics, force against force, bone absorbing the impact through specialized sinus cavities that cushion the brain. What appears to be reckless violence is highly evolved biomechanics. These confrontations determine access to mates, to genetic inheritance. Strength matters, stamina matters, but so does positioning. Even dominance here must respect gravity. One wrong step in the middle of a charge could turn a contest into a catastrophe. Far below, a lone wolf approaches the base of the slope. It studies the incline, calculating. There are times when terrain and hunger intersect. A lamb becomes separated from the group. A patch of scree offers a marginal foothold. Predation is never impossible, but it's difficult. And difficulty alters the probabilities. A sudden movement above, a sheep leaps upward, closely followed by a lamb, its hooves striking sparks from the rock. The wolf takes a few strides and then stops. The angle sharpens. The sheep does not. They rise higher. From the valley, the cliffs seem static and eternal. Up close, they are full of choices. Every step is a negotiation with gravity, every pause, a search for movement down. In this vertical realm, survival belongs to those who master both height and courage. Wolves rule the plains, sheep rule the stony sky, and between them lies a border drawn not by fences, but by physics. The forest holds its breath. The snow lies deep between the trunks of the black spruce trees. Sound doesn't travel here, it settles. A branch creaks once, then the stillness swallows it up. Through that stillness moves a ghost with legs too big for its body. The Canadian lynx is in no hurry. Its enormous fur-padded paws distribute its weight like natural snowshoes, allowing it to float where others sink. Its tufted ears rotate independently. Its face is framed by dense ruffs of fur which soften its contours against the winter light. He stops. He listens. Somewhere beneath the hardened snow, a faint vibration, the subtle scratch of life moving through the tunnels. The architect of these tunnels is the snowshoe hare. The hare is a master of camouflage. In winter, its fur turns white, blending into the snow-covered fields. In summer, it turns brown again, disappearing into the undergrowth. Its hind legs are long and furry, distributing its weight for rapid acceleration on soft surfaces. It feeds on twigs, bark, and shoots, humble foods gleaned from a harsh world. The lynx lowers its body, its muscles compress like taut springs. Then, explosion. The snow explodes. For 2 seconds, the forest erupts into chaos, white against white, predator against prey. The hare zigzags in erratic bursts designed to confuse its pursuers. The lynx adjusts mid-air, twisting with astonishing agility. The silence returns as quickly as it left. Sometimes the lynx eats, sometimes the hare escapes, but the deeper story doesn't lie in a single chase. It unfolds over decades. Approximately every 10 years, the number of hares increases dramatically. Food becomes plentiful for them. Reproduction accelerates. A single female can have several litters in a single season. The forest seems to be full of activity, tracks everywhere, and browsed bushes completely stripped bare. Then, inevitably, the number of lynxes also increases. More hares mean better-fed lynxes. Better-fed lynxes mean greater survival rates for their young. Predation intensifies. The math gets more complicated. Soon, the balance tips. Hare populations are declining, partly due to predation, partly due to overexploited vegetation that reduces food quality, and partly due to stress hormones that increase when predators are constantly nearby. Yes, fear itself alters biology. High stress can reduce reproduction in hares even before they are caught. Ecology isn't just about teeth and claws, it's about chemistry and feedback loops. With fewer hares, the lynxes begin to struggle. Litters shrink. Some disperse more than usual. Famine sets in. The predator falls because the prey has fallen. Then the forest restarts. The shrubs recover. The browsed stems sprout again. With fewer lynxes hunting them, the hare's survival rate improves. Populatem. Below, the wolves move along the lower ridges, searching for scent trails. They look up. The sheep are already watching. Here, predator detection is immediate. The terrain offers wide lines of sight. The silhouette of a wolf against the snow is visible from astonishing distances, and once spotted, the response is swift, a scent. Not a frantic dash, but a controlled retreat to angles unreachable by wolves. But safety doesn't eliminate rivalry. On a wide stone platform, two rams face off. Their horns curve in thick spirals furrowed by years of growth. This isn't decoration. It's history. Each ring marks a season survived. They separate. They lower their heads. Impact. The clash of horn against horn echoes down the mountain, a percussion against the stone. They charge again. Again, the collision. The sound is ancient physics, force against force, bone absorbing the impact through specialized sinus cavities that cushion the brain. What appears to be reckless violence is highly evolved biomechanics. These confrontations determine access to mates, to genetic inheritance. Strength matters, stamina matters, but so does positioning. Even dominance here must respect gravity. One wrong step in the middle of a charge could turn a contest into a catastrophe. Far below, a lone wolf approaches the base of the slope. It studies the incline, calculating. There are times when terrain and hunger intersect. A lamb becomes separated from the group. A patch of scree offers a marginal foothold. Predation is never impossible, but it's difficult, and difficulty alters the probabilities. A sudden movement above. A sheep leaps upward, closely followed by a lamb, its hooves striking sparks from the rock. The wolf takes a few strides and then stops. The angle sharpens. The sheep does not. They rise higher. From the valley, the cliffs seem static and eternal. Up close, they are full of choices. Every step is a negotiation with gravity, every pause, a search for movement down. In this vertical realm, survival belongs to those who master both height and courage. Wolves rule the plains, sheep rule the stony sky, and between them lies a border drawn not by fences, but by physics. The forest holds its breath. The snow lies deep between the trunks of the black spruce trees. Sound doesn't travel here, it settles. A branch creaks once, then the stillness swallows it up. Through that stillness moves a ghost with legs too big for its body. The Canadian lynx is in no hurry. Its enormous fur-padded paws distribute its weight like natural snowshoes, allowing it to float where others sink. Its tufted ears rotate independently. Its face is framed by dense ruffs of fur, which soften its contours against the winter light. He stops, he listens. Somewhere beneath the hardened snow, a faint vibration, the subtle scratch of life moving through the tunnels. The architect of these tunnels is the snowshoe hare. The hare is a master of camouflage. In winter, its fur turns white, blending into the snow-covered fields. In summer, it turns brown again, disappearing into the undergrowth. Its hind legs are long and furry, distributing its weight for rapid acceleration on soft surfaces. It feeds on twigs, bark, and shoots, humble foods gleaned from a harsh world. The lynx lowers its body, its muscles compress like taut springs. Then, explosion. The snow explodes. For 2 seconds, the forest erupts into chaos, white against white, predator against prey. The hare zigzags in erratic bursts, designed to confuse its pursuers. The lynx adjusts mid-air, twisting with astonishing agility. The silence returns as quickly as it left. Sometimes the lynx eats, sometimes the hare escapes, but the deeper story doesn't lie in a single chase. It unfolds over decades. Approximately every 10 years, the number of hares increases dramatically. Food becomes plentiful for them. Reproduction accelerates. A single female can have several litters in a single season. The forest seems to be full of activity, tracks everywhere, and browsed bushes completely stripped bare. Then, inevitably, the number of lynxes also increases. More hares mean better-fed lynxes. Better-fed lynxes mean greater survival rates for their young. Predation intensifies. The math gets more complicated. Soon, the balance tips. Hare populations are declining, partly due to predation, partly due to overexploited vegetation that reduces food quality, and partly due to stress hormones that increase when predators are constantly nearby. Yes, fear itself alters biology. High stress can reduce reproduction in hares even before they are caught. Ecology isn't just about teeth and claws, it's about chemistry and feedback loops. With fewer hares, the lynxes begin to struggle. Litters shrink. Some disperse more than usual. Famine sets in. The predator falls because the prey has fallen. Then the forest restarts. The shrubs recover. The browsed stems sprout again. With fewer lynxes hunting them, the hare's survival rate improves. Populations increase once more. The cycle is reversed. This oscillation, this rise and fall, is one of the most elegant demonstrations of predator-prey dynamics ever recorded. Records from the 19th century Hudson's Bay Company fur trade unwittingly documented it. Lynx pelts rose and fell at remarkably regular intervals, reflecting the abundance of snowshoe hares. Human trade became an accidental source of data for ecological theory. However, it's not a perfectly functioning clock. Climate change, disease, forest structure, everything influences its rhythm. It's a functional model, not a mechanical metronome. Nature loves patterns, but it also loves variation. However, in the snowy forest, theory is condensed into action. A lynx stops beside the trunk of a fir tree, its breath barely perceptible in the cold air. Nearby, a hare freezes, trusting more in stillness than in speed. Neither of them knows that it's part of a 10-year equation. They know only hunger and survival. But together, in pursuit, in flight, in rise and fall, they shape the pulse of the northern forests. The forest inspires hares, the forest exhales lynxes, and the cycle continues, silent as snow. The silence of winter does not fade gently. It explodes. The sunlight lingers well into the night. The snow tumbles down, forming rivers. The ground, now free of frost, exhales. What had been held back for months now accelerates with astonishing urgency. Life in the north doesn't slow down in the summer. It speeds up. Clouds rise from the tundra lowlands, not because of the weather, but because of wings. Mosquitoes hatch in numbers that defy intuition. Pools of meltwater become breeding grounds. Within days, the air thickens into a living haze. The sound is constant, sharp, electric. The pressure from insects here is not a nuisance. It's an ecological force. The caribou feel it first. Their dark bodies moving across open terrain become magnets for the swarms. The mosquitoes target exposed skin, eyes, nostrils, and soft bellies. The caribou huddle together, swishing their tails and shaking their heads. They move uphill, seeking the wind. They wade into rivers, sacrificing grazing time for relief. The energy that could be generated by fat is converted into energy spent fleeing from something that weighs less than a paperclip. Yet even this torment feeds the system. Insects become food for birds. Their larvae recycle nutrients. Irritation alters migratory patterns. Ecology rarely wastes suffering. As animals struggle against the air, the soil is transformed. Flowers burst forth in the alpine meadows with colors that seem improbable after months of monochrome. Willow herb grows in spikes. Arctic lupine tinges the slopes violet. Tiny saxifrages bloom close to the ground, basking in the warmth of the stone. Here, plants operate within a limited time frame. The growing window can be 8 to 10 weeks. Photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert sunlight into chemical energy, is in full swing. Leaves unfurl rapidly, capturing light for nearly 20 hours a day near the solstice. Sugars accumulate, seeds form. Complete life cycles conclude before the first frosts return. It's productivity under pressure. In rivers now free of ice, another drama unfolds. The salmon arrive. Slender bodies make their way upstream, glimmering with silver beneath the surface. They have traveled from the ocean back to the freshwater streams where they were born. Muscles burn, skin thickens, color intensifies, instinct overcomes exhaustion. For predators, this isn't just food, it's a protein feast. On the shore, the grizzly bear sits in the swirling water, squinting against the glare. The fishing isn't frantic, it's calculated. A bear might ignore the weaker fish, selecting those richest in fat and roe. One strike, one jaw snap. Sometimes only the most caloric parts are eaten before the rest are left behind. What seems like a waste is actually the distribution. The carcasses washed into the forest fertilize the soil with marine nutrients. Nitrogen and phosphorus from the Pacific Ocean penetrate the roots of trees hundreds of meters inland. Even the moss benefits. The bears are messengers of nutrients, adorned with their fur. Above, eagles circle, crows wait, wolves probe the boundaries. The river becomes a corridor, a buffet, a battlefield. Summer in the Yukon is abundance at full speed. Insects multiply, plants reach for the sky. Caribou race in search of the wind. Bears feed on salmon. All organisms are caught up in the acceleration, storing energy for the certainty of winter's return. This season is not leisure, it is preparation disguised as extravagance. The light lingers well into the night, but the arc has already begun its slow descent, because in the north explosion is always followed by contraction, and the clock, though invisible, is always ticking. The river narrows as it climbs towards the mountains. The current quickens, the water fractures against the rock, foam gathers in white streaks, and against that relentless current something moves upstream with unreasonable determination. A silver flash breaks the surface, and then another. Pacific salmon is home. They were born here, in gravel beds where cold water carried oxygen over translucent eggs. They drifted downstream as small, vulnerable fry, eventually entering the ocean where they fed and grew for years. There they developed muscle and memory, navigating vast ocean currents guided by magnetic signals and an olfactory map so precise it borders on the miraculous. Anadromous is the technical term. They are born in freshwater, mature in saltwater, and return to freshwater to spawn. It sounds orderly, it's anything but. A salmon approaching its natal stream stops feeding altogether. Its digestive system begins to shut down. The energy stored in its fat and muscle must carry it upstream. Its skin thickens, its color transforms. Chrome gives way to red, green, or mottled patterns depending on the species. Males develop hooked jaws called kypes and sharp teeth. What was once designed for ocean navigation is now reshaped for combat and reproduction. In a narrow waterfall, a salmon leaps into the air. Gravity disagrees. He tries again and again. The leap isn't grace, it's attrition against physics. Many fail, some are swept away by the current. Others find just enough momentum to overcome the obstacle, twisting and turning toward calmer waters. On the shore, a grizzly bear watches with predatory patience. Its world has shrunk to movement beneath the rippling waters. Timing is everything. A front paw strikes, swift, heavy, precise. A fish arches sideways, trapped against the rock. Jaws snap shut. The upstream migration becomes immediate energy, but the bear is just one participant in this unfolding event. Above the river, a bald eagle perches on a fir tree, its head bowed. When debris floats by or carcasses snag on the bank, it spreads its wings and extends its talons. Even the remains feed the sky. Wolves patrol the side channels. Otters glide through deeper pools. Crows gather in advance. Insects lay eggs in rotting meat. Microbes proliferate unseen. This is not just a feeding frenzy, it is a transfer of nutrients on a continental scale. Marine nitrogen and phosphorus, accumulated over years at sea, are now transported inland in the bodies of salmon. When bears drag fish into the undergrowth, when carcasses decompose on the banks, when eagles drop fragments onto moss and soil, ocean chemistry seeps into terrestrial food webs. Tree rings have revealed this story. Spruce trees growing near salmon streams show high levels of nitrogen directly linked to marine sources. Forest growth here is, quite literally, fertilized by the fish. The salmon die after spawning. Their bodies soften, pale, and decompose. It may seem tragic, a life culminating in exhaustion. But in evolutionary terms, it is precision. Reproduction complete, nutrients supplied, energy redistributed. The next generation settles into the gravel, beginning the quiet phase of the cycle. The water continues to advance. The river that once seemed a barrier becomes a corridor. The mountains, which seemed immovable, now seem part of a circulatory system. From the ocean to the forest, from the forest to the river, from the river back to the ocean. A single salmon is muscle against the current. Millions together are transformation. The Great Return is not just migration. It is the time when ecosystems ingest protein and exhale growth. It is when predators fatten up, forests thicken, and entire food webs tighten around a pulse of silver moving upstream. The leap is brief. The impact lasts for years. The light begins to fade. Not suddenly, not drastically. It simply takes a little less time each night, disappearing behind the ridges sooner, yielding minutes that won't return for months. The angle of the sun lowers. Shadows lengthen across the tundra and the forest. The earth senses it before we do. The leaves change from green to gold and then to burning red. Entire valleys glow as if illuminated from within. Then one cold night, the first hard frost arrives. In the morning, the birch leaves loosen and fall in gentle spirals to the forest floor. Decay begins even when beauty reaches its peak. For animals, autumn is not nostalgia, it's arithmetic. Fat equals survival. On the alpine slopes, Dall sheep graze with unwavering focus. Their fleece thickens and the undercoat becomes dense beneath the protective hairs. The change is subtle day by day, yet cumulative, with layers of insulation building molecule by molecule. The energy from the summer forage is converted into reserves. Winter is not an easy time. Preparation must be complete. In the lower valleys, the moose go into rut. The summer stillness transforms into sound. Bulls bellow across open meadows, a rising, haunting call that begins as a roar and morphs into a high-pitched, hissing echo. It carries astonishing distances in the cold air. Horns clash as rivals test their strength, twisting and shoving each other in ritualized and perilous contests. The purpose is singular, to find a mate before resources become scarce. Even reproduction must follow the schedule. Calves conceived now will be born in spring when vegetation returns. Timing is everything. A misalignment in the weeks could mean starvation for both mother and calf. Evolution has fine-tuned these cycles with relentless precision. In the forest, the fur thickens everywhere. The Canadian lynx develops a denser coat with tufts on its ears that stand out against the wind. The snowshoe hare begins its transformation. Its brown fur turns white even before the snow falls, a risky transition in years when weather patterns change unpredictably. Camouflage depends on synchronization with the weather. When the weather fails, vulnerability increases. Wolves feel the urgency more directly. Grey wolf packs increase their hunting frequency. The pups born in spring are larger, but not yet as formidable as the adults. Caribou and elk herds move with greater alertness, grouping together. Each hunt becomes a calculation of energy gained versus energy expended. Running costs calories, and so does missing. Predation intensifies because winter demands it. Wolves must enter the cold season strong. Muscle mass and fat reserves will determine their endurance when prey is scarce and the snow deepens. Cooperative hunting becomes more refined. Coordination becomes disciplined. A pack that succeeds now increases its chances months later. Above them all, the sky clears to a deeper blue. Migratory birds gather in restless flocks and then rise southward in undulating formations. The air carries their departure like a silent subtraction. The plants shrink. The sap slows. Sugars concentrate in the roots. Annual growth stops. The already scattered seeds settle in the soil, waiting in suspended animation for the return of light. What appears to be death is often a strategic dormancy, a biological pause triggered at just the right moment. Daylight continues to shorten. Circadian rhythms, internal biological clocks regulated by light, vary among species. Hormones fluctuate. Appetite increases in some animals and decreases in others, preparing for hibernation. The grizzly bear, its stomach full of salmon and berries, enters the final surge of hyperphagia before retreating to its den. It feeds with an almost mechanical persistence, transforming the autumnal bounty into winter insulation beneath its skin. There is tension in this season. Color and decay, mating calls and falling leaves, abundance combined with inevitability. No creature here is unaware, on some biological level, of what is coming. The darkness will linger. Temperatures will inevitably plummet. Rivers will freeze. Movement will become costly. Thus, autumn becomes a race against time, measured in fat reserves, offspring conceived, and secured territories. The forest floor thickens with leaf litter. The sound of hooves echoes across the frosty meadows. Wolves move more frequently under the twilight sky. The wind picks up. Preparation is not fear, it's aligning yourself with reality. The north doesn't surprise its inhabitants. It announces its intentions by shortening the days and chilling the air. Those who interpret the signs endure. Those who miscalculate pay dearly. By the time the first real snowfall arrives, heavy and deliberate, covering the last golden leaves, most of the preparations are already complete. The world exhales, and the long darkness begins its slow return, not as a catastrophe, but as the next step in a cycle that has never forgotten how to turn. The first snowfall doesn't ask for permission. It arrives at night, gentle at first, exploratory. By morning, the ground is covered in white dust. By evening, the contours of the land begin to blur. Within days, the gold and crimson of autumn fade beneath a rising wave of frost. Winter does not invade. It recovers. The river narrows beneath the forming ice. The meadows harden. The fir branches bend under the accumulated weight. The sound changes, muffled, absorbed, transformed by the accumulated snow into something intimate and close. The land falls silent again, but this time the silence seems deserved. The caribou move carefully through the open tundra. The caribou lower their heads and scrape the snow with their crescent-shaped hooves, revealing the hidden lichen. Each scrape costs energy. Each bite justifies the effort. Their breath forms columns of cold air as they huddle together, scanning horizons that seem wider now that the vegetation has flattened. Caution becomes constant. On the other side of a distant ridge, silhouettes appear in disciplined formation. The grey wolves have reverted to their winter formation, evenly spaced, moving with fluid coordination. The snow works to their advantage. It reveals tracks. It slows their prey. It amplifies their weakness. A caribou that loses its footing leaves a story clearly written on the ground. The pack adjusts its course almost imperceptibly. Hunting in winter isn't chaos. It's a choreography refined by necessity. The wolves probe the pack's boundaries, searching for fatigue, injuries, the slightest miscalculation that the snow punishes. The distance gradually closes. The pressure mounts. The pack tightens. A chase erupts, sudden, explosive against the snow. The snow scatters in arcs. Hooves pound. The wolves spread out, directing, isolating. Minutes decide everything. The outcome feeds the pack for days. Muscle converted into heat, fat converted into survival. Here, predation is not cruelty. It's a reboot. Winter reduces the system to its bare essentials. The weak fall. The strong endure. The energy stored up in summer is now withdrawn like currency from a biological bank. High on the mountain, Dall sheep cling to the wind-eroded ridges where the snow is thinnest. In the dense forest, the snowshoe hare now displays its white fur, its tracks weaving delicate patterns across the snowdrifts. The Canada lynx moves again through the powder, distributing its weight with silent agility. Even the grizzly bear is present in absence. Its heart slowed in a den beneath layers of insulating snow. Life doesn't stop, it compresses. The sun dips low and briefly. The days shorten to their minimum. The cold intensifies into an element in itself, not just temperature, but force. Metal becomes brittle. Breath crystallizes. Water solidifies into architecture. Yet beneath the snow, the seeds wait. Beneath the ice, the rivers continue their dark flow. Inside dens and burrows, warmth persists, small and tenacious metabolic pockets battling the cold. Winter is often confused with death. It's something stranger. It's a reduction to the essentials, stored energy. Energy expended, hunger balanced against risk. Every organism recalibrates, the system strengthens, condenses, simplifies. And then, almost imperceptibly at first, the light will begin to return, 1 more minute each day. The wolves will continue roaming the white plains. The caribou will continue bowing their heads against the wind. The snow will continue dominating the horizon, but embedded in the darkness will be the promise of a tilt, the planet turning toward the warmth. This is not a story with an ending. It's a vicious cycle. The snow buries the meadow that will bloom again. The wolves hunt the herd that will give birth again. The salmon are found as nutrients in the soil that will nourish the forests, that will shade the rivers, that will once again be home to the salmon. Death fuels renewal. Scarcity drives adaptation. Silence prepares the explosion. The landscape now looks as it did at the beginning, white, austere, immense. Wolves in formation, caribou moving cautiously, the wind drawing invisible patterns on the snowdrifts. Full circle, the north does not end, it turns. At first glance, the tundra appears untouched. Snow stretches white and unbroken over hills and valleys. The wind whispers over the frozen rivers. Tracks appear only where caribou pass or where wolves hunt in disciplined formation. And yet subtle traces hint at another presence. A thin line of disturbed snow, a black ribbon curving across the landscape, snowmobile tracks. In the distance, gleaming metal structures rise from the tree line, the skeletal framework of a remote mine. Pipeline corridors cut through once continuous forests, leaving narrow clearings where thick trees once stood. Roads that once seemed impossible now exist, carved into valleys that were silent only months ago. The grey wolf stops on a rise, ears twitching, amber eyes searching. Its fur ripples in the cold wind. For a moment, the predator observes what it cannot fully comprehend. Humans as movement, humans as interference, humans as the ultimate predator whose reach is invisible but inescapable. Migratory routes, etched in memory for generations, are now disrupted. Caribou adapt their paths, navigating pipelines, roads, and the noise of machinery. Breeding grounds shift, predation dynamics subtly change. Wolves must adapt, recalibrate, and compensate. Energy budgets dwindle. Some animals survive, others falter. The ripple effect spreads through the ecosystem silently and persistently. Climate amplifies these pressures. Winter arrives later and the thaw comes earlier. Ice routes that once facilitated migration now form irregularly. Rivers swell unpredictably. The snowpack melts unevenly, leaving hidden dangers for both predators and prey. Temperature is no longer the sole executioner. It has become an accomplice to human alteration. The wolf finally continues its journey, walking silently across the hardened snow, a solitary observer in a vast but no longer continuous land. Its instincts remain sharp, its body primed for survival. Yet the landscape around it is fractured. Corridors of ice and forest are scarred by human intrusion, and each disruption carries consequences beyond sight. Here the lesson is subtle. Humans don't roar like the grizzly bear, they don't leap like the salmon. They don't hunt like the lynx or stalk like wolves. Instead, they restructure the very landscape. Roads, pipelines, and machinery fragment habitats. Energy flows are diverted. Predators must adapt, prey must adjust, and once predictable cycles now carry uncertainty. The Yukon's apex predator isn't always visible. Sometimes it's the shadow that stretches across the valleys, the unseen hand that bends rivers, carves trails, and reshapes migration patterns. Wolves watch, caribou dodge, salmon swim up streams disrupted by prey and temperature changes, and the land recalls patterns that are no longer complete. Despite all its snow and silence, the Yukon is no longer pristine. Echoes of human presence permeate the rhythms of survival. The predator is subtle, slow, but relentless. It changes the rules not by hunting, but by altering the very game board. And yet, life persists. Wolves still hunt in formation. Caribou still migrate, salmon still swim upstream. Adaptation continues, often silently, almost invisibly. Resilience is tested at every turn, and survival requires constant recalibration. The apex predator has arrived. It moves invisibly through the ice, the forest, and the river. It wears no fur, it doesn't howl, and it leaves no tracks to immediately betray its presence. But it is here, transforming life in its image. The wolf raises its head, nostrils flared. The snow ripples in the wind. Human footprints run nearby, but the predator stops, recognizing the invisible force that now dominates the landscape. A predator of intellect, reach, and consequences. In the Yukon, survival has always been measured by adaptation, resilience, and instinct. Now, those same measures are being applied to the land itself, which struggles under the shadow of a new, unseen peak. The vast expanse of the Yukon has long been characterized by extreme conditions, frigid temperatures that keep the ground frozen for months, rivers frozen under thick layers of ice, and the relentless rhythm of predators and prey. Yet subtle changes are now at work. Winters are shorter. Periods of deep freeze, once reliable and long-lasting, are becoming increasingly intermittent. Accumulated snow melts earlier, rivers thaw sooner, and the permafrost softens in ways that reverberate throughout the ecosystem. Human activity exacerbates these changes. Mines, roads and pipelines fragment previously continuous habitats, forcing caribou herds to alter their traditional migration routes. Predators like wolves must follow new paths and recalibrate their hunting strategies, while prey face increased stress and energy expenditure. Even seemingly small intrusions, such as temporary construction or a recreational trail, can disrupt animal behavior throughout the seasons. Management policies add another layer of influence. Wolf control measures aimed at stabilizing game populations subtly alter predator-prey dynamics, sometimes disrupting the delicate balance that has existed for millennia. However, alongside these interventions, conservation efforts are also being strengthened. Protected corridors, regulated hunting, and scientific monitoring seek to mitigate human impact and preserve ecological integrity. The net effect is neither simple nor absolute. Species are showing remarkable resilience, adapting whenever possible. Rivers continue to flow under the ice, salmon continue to swim upstream, and predators continue to hunt. But the rhythm of the Yukon has undeniably changed. Winters are warmer, landscapes are more permeable, and ecological cycles face new pressures. Observing these changes, the lesson is subtle and measured. Adaptation is continuous, survival remains a challenge, and human presence has become a persistent factor in every calculation of life. In the Yukon, survival has always belonged to those who can endure the cold. But the cold itself is changing, and in a land shaped by ice, even a small thaw can rewrite the rules of life.